thing is, this is another thing. People say, nymph fishing is not fly fishing, but my style of fishing over other people's style, like as you said, some people lob it, where my background is fly casting. So my system is set up that I can fly cast my nymphs and deliver them precisely where I want them. And I probably outfish most people because I can do that.
Hello and welcome to the Ireland on the Fly podcast about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland. For this week's episode, we're joined by Eamonn Conway, a well-known angler from Dundalk who in 2016 took the leap and decided to set up his own fly fishing company called Táin Fly Fishing. Its range includes fly rods, reels, lines and leaders, and Eamonn talks to us about the challenges of setting up and running a fly fishing company and why he wants Táin to be the Tayto of fly fishing in Ireland. But first, Tom, you were involved in the tackle trade for years. It's a tough market to break into.
It is very much so. I wouldn't go so far to say it's a crowded market, but it's a market that's, there's a lot out there. So to break in and to stick in the rod market is a great thing to do. And fair play to Eamonn, he's done that. And as we talk about it, he's gone in with his own type of products and rods for certain, for your nymphing, predator and your lock style, and he's doing really well with it. So that's it. It's a tough one to break into, but fair play to him, he's gone and done it.
What I love actually is, he talks to us about his fly fishing career. He says from the age of 12 just obsessed with fly fishing. Was involved in the competitions and he still is, was champion, won competitions, and in classic kind of business sense said there's no rods out there that I think are needed, so I'm going to do something about it. I love that. It's just kind of like, well, there's nothing, attracting me, so I'm just going to get my own. And so fair play. Like, I think it's great to be able to do that and to kind of get the bit between the teeth and say, right, I'm going to do something.
Yeah, it really is. And, I think the word there is passion, isn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely to go along. And funny, he discusses that as well. I mean, not from a business background, and talks about his first foray into marketing and everything. Now he felt afterwards, but it's like anything, you learn and you learn quick. He says, what did he say with the competitions as well? He says, when you don't learn, you're
last.
And it's same with business.
What was it like for you though, actually, Tom? Because you were in the tackle trade. It's a competitive game. It's business. It's dog eat dog, isn't it? It's a far cry from casting the line on the water with the sun setting. Like
people used to say to me, "God, you have a great job." No, it's good, and I was in an industry that I love, but I got the emails. At the end of the day, I was a salesman. You put it up. I was territorial sales manager or whatever. I was a salesman. I got the emails. Tom. With 60% of the month gone, you're currently lying at 44% of your monthly target. With 7 working days left of the month, how do you plan on, getting this situation right? I will be in touch with you by phone this afternoon to discuss what your plans are.
Oh my God, so it was like literally like that, like the tackle trade. It's a business. It's competitive. It's targets. It's not this, glamorous life of fishing and talking about fishing and meeting fishing people. There's a whole other side to it, as Eamonn attests to it as well.
That's it. If you don't, for example, if you're a company and you're not making a profit, you don't survive. Well, you don't survive for that long. You can, put up with it for so long, but at the end of the day, if you're continuously not making money, then you fold.
Yeah, exactly. So
I remember when we were taken over by an American company, and global turnover was 400 million. I think it was 8,000 employees worldwide. And prior to the takeover, the CFO was coming over to the game fair in England to check on everything. The CFO, Chief Financial Officer of all the 400 million dollar turnover company, and we were introduced to him. And so he said, and this is Tom from Ireland. And he shook my hand and he looked at me. And he goes, you're the guy with the big mileage.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah. I'll get my coat then. Yeah. So, that's the level he'd gone through the figures of the company that they were buying. That they checked. There was a few reps at the time. They checked everything. And of course, it was big mileage and probably in relation to turnover.
did you point out to him what the roads are like around the west of Ireland?
Did you see that didn't matter? All that mattered was the bottom figure.
And it's, I'm sorry, another tangent here, which you'll hear about shortly. This other podcast I'm doing, the salmon one.
Yeah. Which is really interesting, actually. Sounds really interesting.
We'll talk about that in a few weeks. But one of the episodes we interviewed Eamonn Conway, the founder of Patagonia, the billionaire who gave the company away, the profits away for saving the planet.
Amazing bloke.
Oh, absolutely amazing. Now, obviously, profit and loss had to be an important part of it, but he always talks about, doing things differently, and not just being about. They never had shareholders, because he says there's no such thing as continual growth, and this is the whole thing about the planet. There's no such thing as continual growth. And that's why he was saying, at least when it was in private hands, they didn't have to be answering to shareholders looking for, the bottom line all the time. But by doing things differently, and he tells the story during the recession kicked in, and in 2008, and most companies say they would have been doing like high-end stuff or recyclable stuff. They stopped doing that because of the price. They said, it's the recession, people aren't going to pay for stuff. And he met this guy a few years later at the company, and they said, our sales are, we stopped doing this, and our sales are still down 30% because of the recession. And he said to Eamonn from Patagonia, who kept doing what they were doing, it was about, they kept their prices. Yeah. But it was still high quality. And he said, our sales went up 30%.
Wow.
So they were just, the accountants might be able to parse the figures and run the numbers, but at the same time, sometimes actually
that's
you need
really
just a bit
interesting, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah. A bit of good instinct and a bit of balls to say, no, this is what we're doing and this is why it's right. So
going completely against the wisdom of the accountants.
Yeah, exactly. You have to take a fine line with that, and but what I love, the other story Eamonn told was when he's asked to talk to business schools, and he tells them, set up your own business, because he says at least then you can create your own rules to follow by, because if you're working for somebody else, you have to follow somebody else's rules. And that's why he set up Patagonia, so he could follow his own rules.
Wow, very interesting. Sounds like he really does sound like a really interesting bloke.
But staying with business and fly fishing business and the fly fishing tackle trade, let's hear from this week's guest, Eamonn Conway from Táin Fly Fishing. And I first asked Eamonn about where his love of fly fishing first came about.
Well, for me, it was starting with worms, and then I was sort of, yourself as a child, you just go out an odd time. But then something clicked with me that I remember seeing it, the Trenton Salmon magazine, and all these people with fish, in their hands, and I'm going, I don't get many fish, but these guys are getting loads of them, and all they seem to have is fly rods, so I want to get a fly rod, and that's where I took the interest from. Eventually, 12th birthday, I went up to the local tackle shop and got myself a fly rod. It was a Shakespeare Europa fly rod. From what I can recall, it was I think it was a 9 foot 7/8. It was like that, like it's heavy. You can only imagine. I wouldn't give it to a child now, but that's what was available back then, I remember, it was just, I still have it. It's just amazing to think what I started with,
And you're obviously mad keen as a kid, like, right?
Yeah, and I can't figure out why I was so obsessed, but just absolutely obsessed with fly fishing.
Was there anybody in the family then, Eamonn, that fly fished?
My father doesn't fish at all. He probably would have as a young fella, but you're probably laughing when I tell you this, but my two uncles were draft net fishermen for salmon on the Castletown estuary. So, it's crazy. I went one way, and they were gone the other. But yeah, it's crazy. I don't know. I was just fanatical about fly fishing. I don't know what it is.
That's the second connection. Remember Mike O'Shea down in
that's right, actually, yeah.
Because his background was from the draft nets fishermen as well. So you're not alone, Eamonn.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But there's something there. There's something there that just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but just fly fishing got a grip of me in an extraordinary way,
Draft net fisherman side of things, did you any stories, memories of your uncles in terms of that side of things?
I actually, believe it or not, I actually went with them a few times just to see what it's all about. And it's amazing that, and, people think, oh yeah, they're catching loads of salmon. They weren't. They might have years and years ago, but when I was sort of, seeing what they're at, they weren't getting much.
And where was the estuary?
It would have been the Castletown estuary there. But so you see, we've Castletown on the Fane emptying into Dundalk Bay, so they would have fished the two estuaries,
Can I ask you then, Eamon? And I've always asked this to nets fishermen. When they were drawing the net, were you getting that same anticipation, that same feeling? Oh my God, I hope there's going to be something there. Is
Yeah,
there anything
you
there?
do.
Yeah,
Yeah, you would, like it's
yeah,
just crazy. Yeah, as you say, the anticipation of hoping something's going to get caught.
yeah.
How big were those nets, and how did it work
You
essentially?
see, what they do is they'd have a man standing on the bank of the river, and then what they would do is they would row out, obviously let the net go out the back of the boat, and then what they do is they'd have to make a loop and then haul it to the shore, and then they'd pull it, and whatever was in it, was
That
in
was
it.
in it. Yeah.
And like you're saying, like it's not like they were hauling in, massive catches.
No,
Like,
no, no. Like that was towards the end of it. Like I often heard stories of them catching 30s and 40s, but like way before. But that was back then. They were feeding their family at that stage.
did any of the draft netsmen fish for pleasure then at all?
Well, I give you a laugh. One of my uncles did actually go and rod fish. So when he wasn't draft netting during the season of draft netting season, he'd be away stocky bashing. So it's funny, like,
Yeah. Maybe just bring us back then, Eamon. So you got obsessed with the fly fishing.
yeah.
Was it brown trout, sea trout up
Yeah,
Dundalk
Brian
way?
Trout, yeah. So the club I'm a member of, I've been a member since I was six, I think 1991. Yeah, Brown Trout anglers on the Castletown River and the Fane River, and that's all I fish for. When I was younger, and then sort of as I got older, branched out to fly fishing for pike. At one stage I was a spade junkie. I remember traveling to the River Mourne, fly casting for salmon, with the two-hander. Like I've just fished sort of in every way possible.
I suppose up with that part of the country where you are, Eamon, you have so much brilliant
Oh
fishing
man, the
close to
variety
hand.
we have, like an hour from my house in any direction, you would have so much variety. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, you
Like
really do up there. There's a lot to pick and choose from. Between your saltwater stuff, your brown trout stuff, your sea trout rivers,
yeah,
your
it's
pike fly
crazy.
fishing. Yeah, it's brilliant. And then, as you say as well, not too far away, you could get into your spade junking.
That's it, because like the River Boyne's only like Slane's what 25 minutes from my house. You could
All
fish
right,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's just crazy. It really is. It's an angler's paradise when you think about it. It really
Mm.
is. You know.
And yet you wouldn't get many visiting anglers, would
Not
you? Like,
really.
is it
That's what
mainly
I don't
locals?
get.
Or?
Everybody seems to travel to the west of Ireland, where the east
I
coast.
know I'm always going on about this, Eamon, that they're all about
No,
the
no,
west
lads, no,
and
no,
all that.
no,
But
lads,
I
no.
tell you,
We'll play along now. There's no reason to be
no, but I have
nitpicking
to
at
say,
this.
I love the West as well. I tell you, I used to travel, excuse me, to Cross every year religiously for the Con and Cullen competition. It was just,
Mm.
I was obsessed. It was crazy. But saying that, a lot of Dundalk anglers did travel west, and there's something about it. It's just magnificent.
Give us some of the favourite places you like to fly fish in Ireland then, Eamon. Where's kind of, or is it closer to home that stands out for you?
For me, I think I went through a stage of discovery, as in, you know, I would just pick a point on a map and just go there and fish it and see what it was like. And some days like there's streams in County Monaghan there. You jump across them and you wouldn't believe it, but there's trout in them. It's just it's crazy, and that's what I used to love doing. I used to just pick a wee river or a lake on a map and go and fish it and see what I could get. And it was that adventure and kind of fishing that I enjoy. I wouldn't have one particular place that I would say I love. Although there is one spot in the Fane, it's called Number One. That's probably my favorite spot on the Fane. But in terms of places, there are just so many. It's hard
That
to pick
sounds
one,
so brilliant, Eamon, what you're saying. Like, let's say, randomly, you say somewhere in Monaghan, where you pick a stream and you don't really know what it's like, and you go there and you catch a trout or a couple of trout or good trout. That's I really get the sense of adventure with that, and I really
Yeah.
get the sense of fulfillment you'd have if
Oh,
it
it's
comes good.
amazing. And even the fulfillment and achievement alone, like it's like, that doesn't matter if the fish is only 6 inches, trout's only six
Yeah,
inches,
yeah.
or 6 pound. Um, I just love it. Like that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't just pick any river. Obviously, it would have to be attached to some sort of system that would have trout in it. Like for an example, there's it's a part of the Annalise system, but this is well up it. It's in County Monaghan. It's part of the Shantana system, and it's only a shuck. And there's like a pipe that comes out underneath the road, and the water's flowing in. And I was just chucking nymphs into where the water's coming out of the pipe, and I'm pulling trout out of them. Like, this is magic.
Class.
Yeah.
I remember actually when I first started getting into fly fishing, I bought Peter O'Reilly's books as the Bibles, fly
Yeah.
fishing in Ireland, which is, and I still to this day keep it beside my bedside and dip in and out. But then I got the Rivers of Ireland book. And similar to that, I haven't done it now, but I would love to, you'd pick any page at random and you'd find whatever river, whatever county, and you could just almost picture it, as Peter would describe it to you. And like the incredible thing about that book was like you could literally just from that book go anywhere in the country, find out where to get, license, permit, whatever, and head off fishing. Like it's an valuable guide, isn't it?
And likewise with me on the Lakes of Ireland by Peter O'Reilly.
Yes.
I mean, the western section alone, I have marked every lake that I've fished in. Like, seriously. I mean, when I got my first car, a bit like this is why I'm with you about going to Monaghan. When I got my first car back in the mid-90s, 3-piece rod, chucked in the boot, off to the hill lakes, and they weren't necessarily up the hill, but the bogs, the Connemara and everything. Check the entry in O'Reilly's book, pick it off, and go and fish it. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, it's amazing. Like that's what I love about the adventure part of it. There's so much to Ireland, fishing wise. It's unbelievable. Like, and the map I used to work off Ordnance Survey maps, so they were very accurate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I had the sheet 36, which is Loud, sheet 35, which was sort of Cavan Monaghan, 28 A and B, and I had them all sellotaped together on the wall, and I'd be looking, going, right, where am I going next week?
Can I ask you actually, Tom and Eamon, on this? Like, obviously, if you're a salmon angler, you generally venture further afield, in terms of, time of the year, the salmon run, wherever, river conditions. It's much more kind of maybe more condition specific. And I can understand that in the sense of you're likely to go to different places for salmon fishing. What about for brown trout anglers in the main? Like, I know you were saying, like, you would go off on the adventures, but correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of brown trout anglers, you'll kind of stick to your local river because that's where you can, and you can get loads of fish and your river. Yeah. Are you less likely to go further afield or be more adventurous if you're a brown trout angler?
I think it's a personal kind of thing. Like for me, I sort of got lazy after a while, and I wouldn't sort of travel any further than an hour because I didn't have to, and I have to say I got very, very lazy. But other people are different, you know what I mean? Some people wouldn't, like, there's guys I know in my local club there, and they travel to Donegal to fish the Rosses every so often. And I'm like, geez, I don't think I'd travel 3 hours to go to the Rosses. But now saying that, I did travel with them there last September, and my goodness, it was worth it. It was worth a drive,
Yeah, it's funny. People change that. Just back to that, nobody can see it.
Yeah.
Right. For those who
how many have you got there, Tom?
I think I've about 40.
So just Tom is showing us a
all the west coast of the
box full of those maps.
Yeah. I tell you, I thought I was bad. That's I tell you what, that's unreal.
Yeah, seriously, I went completely in it, and then when I cross-reference it on O'Reilly's book, and I check and I work out how to get into it and everything. Yeah. So once you said the maps to me there, I said,
I tell you. Google Earth is brilliant because you can put you can put the wee guy on the bridge and look up and down. If it looks okay, that's where we it's a great tool for fishermen.
Yeah, it is actually. But I mean, it's funny, but back to what you were saying then, you see, it's sometimes I think we all go through that spirit of adventure, and like I find myself now, and a bit like what you said there, Eamon, get a bit lazy now. Do you know what? Handy, you're just I know it's, I've become used to it. So
well, see, the thing for me as well, with kids and stuff like that there, if I'm dropping the kids off to school or whatever at 9 o'clock, I have to be back for like 2. So for me, if the river I'd go to either be the Fane or the Flurry River. The Flurry River is like literally 5 minutes from my house, and it's a small mountain stream, and the trout are only about 6 inches in it, but it gets me out for a few hours. I get back for the kids, the whole lot. And you wouldn't think I was fishing at all,
Funny that. I wonder, is it kind of like when you're in your 20s, you have your car, you have a bit more freedom, the family hasn't started. That's kind of the ideal kind of decade where you can kind of go off exploring. Like,
oh, that's it. Like, it's amazing, I suppose, when you're younger, that the freedom you have to just do whatever you want and fish wherever you want. And, like even like when I was younger, I travelled to the likes of British Columbia there with the guys. It was a group of guys from town over to Chilliwack. We were fishing for sturgeon and salmon and all. So like I done all those, I suppose, adventures. I'd like to do a few more now, but yeah.
You have to wait about 10, 15 years.
That's it, yeah. Wait till the kids grow up a bit more, you know.
Yeah, a bit of that. Yeah.
Hand them off.
Yeah.
I get the sense, actually, every time, and again, talking to Mick and yourself there, Eamon, is there's a very strong club scene up around Dundalk.
Oh man, for a long time we had a really, really strong club. Yeah, you know, the Brown Trout Anglers. Doc would have known them, like I suppose through Taffy and all that kind of stuff, competition scene and things like that. There was just phenomenal, like, you know.
Yeah, I remember I was saying that to you because I think the first time I would have met Eamon was back at a youths All Ireland, and this was back in the noughties, and I was really impressed going up there. The work that your club, the Dundalk Anglers, had put into the running the event, which everything went like clockwork, and all the volunteers you'd out.
Yes, some great
it
guys.
was just really good. I was really impressed. Really impressed. Great club spirit.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal, like the club. It is a great club, I have to say now, you know. And the river itself for brown trout fishing is just, it's crazy.
Have you ever fished there, Tom, yourself up that way?
No, I went up because the Connacht youth team at the time. I went up to it, and I remember looking at the river, but couldn't fish. Couldn't fish, so I was just a steward on the day, and it was a lovely river. It was to its bones that day. I was saying that to Eamon. It really was. It was and this was the beautiful thing about it. Still a lot of fish caught. Was catch release with stewards, and it just, it gave a good result.
It's a great result. Like in 2013, we had the All Ireland on it there. For 36 anglers, there was over 900 trout caught and released in one day. So it give you an idea.
What's the club like nowadays? Is it struggling for new members, the next generation? We hear a lot about that in terms of the younger generation.
I was looking at the numbers there at the AGM the other night, and it does, like, it was the lowest numbers I ever seen. Usually there's always over 300. This time there's only like 150 or 60,
Right.
So I'm not too sure. I don't know if it's a generational thing, people are giving up, and obviously kids aren't coming into it, so it's hard to know.
Well, myself and Tom have always spoken about it in terms of, I'm a firm believer, I think back in the day, maybe clubs didn't have to do as much to attract the members because, people had less distractions, less things, less choice, shall we say. Whereas now, I firmly believe for clubs to grow into the future, they need to be doing more, need to be more proactive about reaching out.
I think that sports are nearly competing amongst one another. Like, like in my area there on a Saturday morning, you drive past the football pitch and it's just full of people. Do you know what I mean? Parents and kids and all that kind of stuff. And where, I don't know, with the fishing end of things, like, I suppose the people were different back then. Like, we used to cycle out fishing on the bikes and stuff like that.
I was just going to say that, Eamon. You see, everything is structured and organized.
Yeah. And
as parents, like, if you have kids, you leave them, and it's from 10 o'clock till 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and that's it. And everything is structured. And it's not just, football. It's things like mountain biking, kayaking, whatever. It's groups and clubs, and there's designated instructors, and everything is done, above board. Whereas, as what you said there, I'm like, this idea of us nipping off and cycling off now. I mean, many parents would let their kids do now what we used to do is as youngsters cycling off. It's not as easily done. So, and it's what Dara says there. Is the onus is on the clubs now to get these structures in place within the clubs and within angling groups, so it can make it easy and more accommodating for youngsters to find out about fishing and to go fishing.
Yeah, like when we were younger, like there was a group of us and we all hung around together. And like if we were bored in the summertime, right, lads, sure, look, we'll go fishing, jump on the bikes. There'd be 5 or 6 of us. Once there was a group of us, we were sort of deemed safe enough. Do you know what I mean? And that was it. We all went fishing. There wasn't really much fishing done, but we went anyway. And then we come back. But I think that the fishermen sort of done the fishing, and the people who are sort of just there for the crack, they're obviously there for the crack, and the people who are there, they don't fish anymore. We're sort of still fishing, people,
Yeah, but I do think just on that, I agree. It's easy to kind of cry foul and decry, that there's no numbers coming fishing. Well, unless you actually start to do something about it, you know what I mean? Unless, like, well, what are you doing about it as a club or as individuals or as members to try and, because that's the way it's gotten now.
Yeah, it just seems to be if you're a family member of someone who fishes, you sort of just go fishing kind of, and that's really it. That's what I see, you know.
Yeah. Well, listen, back to your own fishing then, Eamonn. So you're exploring the country with a fly rod in hand, suitably obsessed. Your parents are worried about you, your future life. where are you going to end up? What's going to happen to you? At what stage then did you decide to set up your own fly fishing business?
It was back in 2016. To be honest, I was sort of always in the not the fly industry, but the fishing industry. Like I got a job in a tackle shop in Dundalk. It was Island Fishing Tackle. It was owned by a guy called Pat Wearley. And I worked for him for a few years. When I was 17, I joined the army. So I worked for him all the time because he was sick before he died. And the wife asked me to run the shop. So I'd sort of do that there for her. And then in 2006, I became a member of Apguy Ireland. So I was sort of doing a bit of fly coaching or fly casting coaching, stuff like that there. And I remember going to Canada and we hired the guides and all this. And I was sort of saying to myself, you know what? I could do this. No problem. You know, so I came back and I sort of set up a website. This was actually prior to 2006. It was sort of, I just had it for guiding really, you know. And then around 2016, I sort of decided, you know what, I'd love to just have my own sort of brand of fishing rods. And that's when I set it up.
So take us through the difficulties of that in terms of when one wants to set up one's own fly rod. What does one do? Like, do you ring up a factory in China? How does this work?
The beauty about the internet is, you know, the availability of suppliers has got easier. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of to and fro and back and forth and sort of design and trying to figure out what you want and how it looks and all this kind of stuff, you know. And once you come up with a final product, then you run with it.
And what's been the biggest challenge for you, do you think? Is it because it's obviously quite a crowded market.
Yeah.
So what's the differentiator for you with, how do you make Táin Fly Fishing stand out?
To be honest, for me, it was very hard because I'm not a businessman or I haven't the first thing about business. So for me, at the early stages, I was just learning, you know what I mean? Hadn't a clue. The first show I went to, and I never really sort of said much about it, but the first show I went to, the Go to Fly Fair, I spent loads of money getting there, you know, paying for the stand, all this kind of stuff. And I sold one rod for the weekend. And I'm like, what just happened? What am I doing? I was completely out of my depth. I hadn't a clue what I was doing. And that was a reality check.
And what do you think the problem was or the difficulty was?
I just didn't know what I was doing. I was in deep water. Hadn't a clue.
You jumped in at the deep end.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did, really. Yeah, I'm really, as you know, like I was involved with the tackle trade for years, particularly on rods. And like, I know it was something huge for you to do, Eamonn, but fair play to you. You did it. I think I remember saying it was like, I mean, it was something that you wanted. You saw what you wanted in rods.
Yeah, exactly.
And they weren't out there. I remember you saying that. And then you said, well, this is what I'm going to do about it. A fair play to you did. But to be honest, and I'd say this to you as well, I know you only sold one rod at that first show, but do you think, did lads come back to you after that?
Say, yes. Yeah. Exactly.
Did that make you feel a wee bit better?
Yeah, because you get the guys after the show, you know what? They'd be emailing you saying, yeah, I met you at the show. You know, I'd like to get one of your rods. I'm like, you know.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. So, like, if I was as good at selling as I am at fly fishing, I'd probably be like Sage or Scott, but I'm not there yet. So, do you know?
If I was really good at sales, do you think I'd actually be just stuck in a fishing tackle company?
Yeah.
You know, because you could make a fortune elsewhere if you're really good at sales. But,
yeah, exactly.
It's the love of angling.
Yeah, I think
you where you are, you know.
Exactly. It's sort of been part of the scene, kind of, you know.
Yeah.
Tom said there, like you were saying about you wanted to do rods that you felt weren't in the market. What were they? What was it that you saw the gap in the market?
It was sort of, I just wanted to have an Irish kind of brand of fly fishing rods. So I started out with like lake rods and then river rods, you know, and that was really it. And I sort of broke into with the Euro nymphing rods. So I more or less specialize in those now over the other rods.
Okay, so that'd be your kind of your standout brand, I suppose, is the Euro nymphing side of it, is it?
Yeah.
So what kind of rods are you talking about? Like kind of 2-weight, 3-weight? Is
Yeah,
it 10
so
foot?
10 foot 2-weight, 11 foot 2-weights, that kind of thing. And then obviously varied in prices and stuff like that, features, things like that, you know.
What's your most popular model? Is the 10 foot or the 11 foot?
10 foot seems to be the one everybody sort of reaches for, you know.
And have you built up like a loyal kind of customer base over the
Yeah,
years
you
now,
do. You
Eamon,
get
that
people,
regulars come back?
you would, yeah. You'd get people, you know, coming back all the time. But it's funny, like it's crazy with the internet. Like I've sent rods as far as Japan, you know, like I never seen the likes of it.
But I suppose, like you said, you can know all about fly fishing or what you want to do with the fly fishing side of it, but there's the whole sales, marketing.
But that's it. Yeah.
That's the whole other, you know, you can have the best gear in the world, but if nobody knows about it or nobody buys
Exactly,
into
and
what you're
it's
doing.
funny, like because I give you a laugh. The year I started it up, I actually won the All Ireland. I won the Taffy All Ireland and the ITFFA All Ireland, and I was sort of saying to myself, this couldn't have happened at a better time, you know. But people, I was going to shows after that, and people are like, who are you? I thought because I won these competitions, everybody's going to know me, but it's not the case. It's not, you know, that's not how it works. Like,
yeah, it's the general punter, isn't it? Like as opposed to the competition scene that you're trying to sell to.
yeah, like it's mad. Like it's like business is crazy. Like, and that's what I'm saying. I'm still learning, but and I don't just I suppose deal with rods. I'm sort of obviously have the guiding and stuff like that there and tuition as well, you know. So it's trying to be as diverse as I can, you know.
Yeah, and is that kind of, I was going to ask you, like, what's your kind of future plans? Are you going to focus in on one area, or is it a case of you kind of have to jack of all trades nearly?
Well, it's I suppose jack of all trades, but the plan is to grow. I was sort of trying to describe it to somebody. I'd like what Tayto is to Irish people for crisp. I'd like to be the equivalent in fly fishing, you know.
So you're going to have a theme park with roller coasters.
Well, I tell you, you never know. You never know.
Something new.
But that's the sort of, you know, mightn't happen this year or next year, but like
that's what you're going
then going.
How broad is the range of rods that you're doing?
I suppose I've predator rods there, lake rods, dry fly rods, and nymphing rods.
And nymphing rods. Wow.
Yeah. But
how do you do it on then? Do you get the blanks to your specification? How are you going? Let's say you want to bring out a new your nymphing rod. How do you go about it? Do you actually, is it requirements that you say that you want in the blank and everything?
Yeah, exactly. And then they'd send you a blank, and you sort of just see what it's like, you know.
And then you can go back with them and say, look, not too gone on that. I need more through action or whatever, or something like that. Yeah.
And then once I'm happy with a rod, then go with that.
Then you go, that's brilliant. So once you're happy with it, then you can go with it, and then
exactly
you can launch it then.
Exactly. And what I've done in more recent times there, I've started building my own rods, as in building them personally myself, because sometimes when you're dealing with manufacturers, they're not exactly, sometimes you mightn't get a rod exactly the way you want it, where when I'm building a rod, I can build it the way I want it or whatever way the customer wants it, you know, which is good.
Oh, brilliant. I didn't know actually that you were building them yourself. Now that's excellent.
Yeah. And it's sort of the higher price range, I build them.
So do you do bespoke then kind of orders? If somebody says, I want a 11-foot, 9-inch.
Well, if I can get the blank to match what you're looking for, I could probably build it. Or if somebody comes to me with a blank, I can throw it together, no problem.
So in terms of just from the fly fishing side of things, Eamon, I know you, like you said, you do guiding, you do courses as well. From the public's appetite that you see for people that come to you, is it nymphing is what people are kind of most interested in?
Yeah, it's sort of, it's people are inquisitive about it, you know what I mean? They want to see what it's all about because, you know, for a long time, people would have been wet fly, dry fly, you know, and I tell you, I was guilty of it myself, of not wanting to. I was sort of adamant, no, I'm not trying that there because it's not fly fishing. I was one of those people until I sort of changed the way I thought, because when I wanted to start competing, in order to get better, you need to do these things. So I get into the nymphing in a big way. The thing is, this is another thing. People say, oh, nymph fishing is not fly fishing, but my style of fishing over other people's style, like as you said, some people lob it, where my background is fly casting. So my system is set up that I can fly cast my nymphs and deliver them precisely where I
Mm.
want them. And I'd probably outfish most people because I can do that. Because like if your setup is wrong, like say you have these guys, and I probably get, a bit of backlash from this, but you know, the whole big thing, oh, you need level leaders, all this kind of stuff. Everybody's different, but that's not how I do my things. I'm a firm believer, if your line is tapered the whole way down to your fly, you'll have pure precision, where if you have a level leader and your nymphs are on, your nymphs are sort of in control of everything. They're bouncing around in the air, where my line will control where the nymphs go, and that's the difference. So it takes somebody else 3 or 4 casts to put their fly, into a 6-inch piece of water. I'll probably get it in probably first cast, if not the second.
Yeah. And are you targeting the pockets, the riffly water? What kind of, where do you target?
I have a sort of system.
I'm trying to get the secrets out of you in case you hadn't noticed that.
No, it's not that it's secrets. It depends on the water type. If it's pockety, you're pickpocketing, you're targeting those areas. But if there's a big flat and you can't see any features, well, you're going to have to go into like a systematic process of fishing the water. So you start in a near bank, you work your way across, until you find the fish, and then if you don't catch anything, a few steps up, repeat the process going across until you find your fish.
Until you find them. And with this process that you're using, Eamonn, would you aerialize much fly line? Would you be using fly line as opposed to, let's say, just in other ways of your nymphing where there's actually no fly line outside the rod?
It depends on the distance. Yeah, if the river's small, it'd probably be little to none, because the length of your rod and your leader, you've enough reach there. You'll cross, especially the likes of the fin. You don't need much. But if you're fishing the likes of the Nore, big river, I seen myself like throwing probably 30 feet of fly line with my Euro nymphing leader, throw it well up, keep the rod high, and just bring it back or take the line in like you're dry fly fishing.
And bite detection, what do you use for that then?
I use the bicolor indicator.
That's what you're using, bicolor indicator.
Yeah, or sometimes
any deviation on that at all, and you're hitting, is it?
If it stops, if the line stops or shoots, yourself, you don't need to strike hard, because most of the time they hook themselves anyway.
Is the nymphing what you'd use 9 times out of 10 when you come to the river, or would then?
Yes, well, I tell you, see, this is the funny thing. My system allows me to fish nymphs and dry, so as I can cast a single dry or single nymph, no problem with my system, and I get the best of both worlds. So I'm not carrying 2 rods up the river.
I see that, because if you're using that tapered leader, it's going to be perfect presentation for your
exactly. That's exactly it.
And the fact you're having a bite indicator is going to make absolutely diddly squat to your
no, because if you're precise, if you can put the dry fly in the fish's nose, he's not interested in your bite indicator.
He's not going to see it.
He's not going to see it.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, it's very interesting actually. It's nice to see that method. It's a different style of thinking. It's a different style of different approach, I should say, and obviously works in.
Oh man, it's unbelievable. Like, but as I say, everybody's different. But like, the first time I ever nymphed was with a level line, and I was sort of trying to control it, and it wasn't working for me, And when I was actually over in America at the America Cup in 2008, and I seen this Polish guy doing it, and I'm like, this is unbelievable. He's flat out catching fish. I was merely wet fly and dry fly fishing and dry dropper, And then once I seen him do it, I got to try this. So back home to Ireland, I had just a month of September left, trying this level leader system. I was catching fish, but I couldn't get the accuracy I required, and that's when I started working with tapered leaders. Like, I have a YouTube channel there as well, and on one of the videos I done, I was using shock leader for sea fishing. I'm not sure if you ever seen shock leaders,
I know it.
Big tapered leader. They're very aggressive, but my goodness, you can do anything with them. They're like, They're phenomenal. They're as good as a fly line, only for the monofilament.
Let's check
They're
that
brilliant.
out. What's the kind of, for people that you guide or that you give lessons to or give courses to, what's the kind of biggest mistakes you see people making, just for them to be aware of in terms of correcting?
I suppose their leader setups, things like that there, and weight differences, and they're using the wrong weight, like they could be too heavy, and they're catching the bottom all the time. And then some people come to just want sort of validation to see that make sure they're doing everything okay. They're not making really any mistakes.
Yeah, that's true. I think validation sometimes is really important, Eamon, because with that, another word I'd use is confidence.
Yeah,
Because as you say, guys can be doing the right thing, but sometimes they're not completely confident in it,
yeah,
and they don't. And on account of that, they're not doing if they're not sure if they're doing it right. And as you say, once you can see them and let them know, yeah, you're doing everything perfect, stick at it, and then suddenly everything changes, and they start getting a bit more success.
yeah. That's it. Like some guys there before, and you just hand them one of your leaders. Try that there, see what you think, and they're like, "This is night and day." Something as simple as a leader. It's
Do
crazy.
you actually have those? Do you sell those leaders, by the way?
I do. Yeah, they're on my
Oh, good
website.
man. Yeah, good man.
It's just tainflyfishing.com or
It's funny actually,
www.tainflyfishing.com.
Tom, and I know my biggest mistake, it's just pure laziness. Whether it's not changing the fly, the nymph, the depth that you're fishing at,
Yeah,
rather than changing that, I
absolutely,
just
yeah.
find another piece of water that'll just. It's so bloody lazy.
That's
Like,
it. It's more, do you know what?
You know,
Yeah,
you know what?
lazy or attention to detail. That's it. That's it for me. Like, I don't know if it's an army thing or not, but attention to detail is crucial. Like crucial when you're fishing.
it's a really good point. Actually, I think, wonder, does it come back to that army thing? Yeah, the best anglers are the ones that have a plan, have the attention to detail, know what they're doing,
That's it. It's
why
just,
they're
yeah,
doing
it's
it.
really like the will to succeed, kind of.
Yeah. Whereas most of the Joe public, we go out, we have the rod set up from last year.
Yeah,
I'm just
Yeah.
talking for a friend now, of course, and
course,
we
yeah.
just hope to do the same thing, and hopefully it all comes together. But yeah, you're right. And actually I find as well, it's just even at the start of the season is a great time to just kind of approach it, say, right, what will I do differently? Before you go into your bad habits after a few weeks, at least try a few weeks of doing something new. Like,
that's it. You have to be willing for change as well. Try, like, how I learned was just trying. I always wanted to try something new, or something different. Like, for talk's sake, them small mountain streams. Like, do you ever go to one of them wee streams and you see the trout, swimming up and down the river? I'm like, I can never seem to catch them. But my goal is, I want to see if I can, how can I crack this? And eventually, if you stand looking at it long enough and try to figure it out, you'll get it. And that's what I used to do. Put myself in sort of situations that forced me to learn, kind of.
do you still do the competition scene at all, Eamon, or?
Oh yeah, flat out.
Okay. But that's a great place where you have to learn, isn't it? You have to keep
That's
pushing
it.
yourself.
Yeah, if you don't learn, you're going to be last.
Yeah.
Yep, very true. But and again, it's a bit like what you've honed in your competition. What you've learned and developed yourself from your competition experience. For example, those leaders that we're talking about, everybody else can use them now, and they can get their enjoyment. It's a bit like we always say, you might enjoy, competition fishing might be for you, but you can enjoy the fruits of it by using these techniques
Absolutely.
and catch a couple of extra fish for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Listen, we ask everybody that comes on the show to tell us what their most memorable fish on the fly is.
I was thinking about this one, and it's not a big trout, but you'll probably laugh at this. I was we do a lot of sea trout and nymphing in the rivers here locally, and this was probably, I'd say, 7 or 8 years ago now at this stage, and I was fishing at the clubhouse there on the Castletown River, hoping to catch a sea trout, nymphing away, line stops, set the hook, and next you know, geez, I'm into a good fish here. What could it be? It might be wee small grills. You wouldn't know. And playing away. This is a good fish. And then once I started to tire him out, I could see what it was. And I got this fish onto the bank. It was a rainbow trout with sea lice on him.
Oh my God.
Wow.
I actually, if you look at my Facebook account, and go back far enough, you'll actually see I posted it on Facebook. This was like 7 or 8 years ago. But a sea trout, fresh run sea trout with sea lice, or sorry, not sea trout, rainbow trout with sea lice on him.
Oh my God.
Wow. And fin perfect. Was it?
Fin perfect, unbelievable. Yeah, I actually rang the fishery board and asked them to come down and take it away because I'm sure they would be interested to see
Yeah.
where it came from. But I never heard anything back from them. But yeah, that was probably the most unique fish I ever caught.
What size was it?
He was only about, I'd say, 2.5, 3 pound maybe.
Oh, wow. Oh, he's a decent fish though. Yeah.
Decent fish. I thought it was a small grilse or something,
Yeah.
'cause the fight he gave me was phenomenal. Sort of same himself, maybe he's like his first ever steelhead or something. I don't know. But, crazy. Like you couldn't write that. Like,
That's of course what he was. Technically, he was a steelhead.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
And there's been none seen since or heard of her.
I think somebody caught one on the Fane a few years prior to that, but that was only sort of hearsay,
Well, I'd have to say that's the first time, isn't it?
It is actually.
For our memorable fish on the fly.
Yeah.
Definitely memorable.
Definitely is.
I was recording at the same time, and it was cursing and everything, But yeah, it was crazy.
For people that want to get in touch if they're interested in Táin Fly Fishing in terms of rods, leaders, it's tainflyfishing.com. Eamonn, is that right?
Yeah,
And you do guiding and courses as well. So if anybody's in,
guide and tuition, yeah, rod building, all that kind of stuff.
and you have your YouTube channel as well. If people
Right,
want to have a
yeah.
look at the videos. Well, look, Eamonn, very best of luck with the future of Táin Fly Fishing and in terms of
very much.
its growth and development. It's great to see Irish companies, in this space, trying to make their own way on it. So, very best of luck to it, and tight lines for the coming season.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on your podcast. It was great having the crack.
Our thanks to Eamonn Conway from Táin Fly Fishing for joining us on the show. Don't forget to rate, review, and follow the Ireland on the Fly podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
Plus, you can keep up to date on IrelandOnTheFly.com as well as on Instagram, and myself and Tom will be back with another episode about the people and places of fly fishing in Ireland.